Tell me something, dear. Have you ever had a really bad day?
Hey everyone, I'm Mark.
I'm Ian.
This is the Uncaped Crusaders review. We'll be reviewing Killing Joke today, which
Killing
just
Joke,
came out beginning of August. And, much acclaimed graphic novel.
Oh, yeah.
One of the most acclaimed Batman novels that there are, up there with Dark Knight Returns.
Sure.
Alan Moore's and Brian Boland's fantastic comic, looking at a totally different relationship between Batman and the Joker that really hadn't been seen before in that way, and fleshed out like that. I don't know, maybe serious. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I mean it's quintessential.
But and so anyway, obviously everybody likes the book. I'm sure you like the book. I love the book.
Okay, not.
I mean it's fantastic. But the movie, good and bad.
Yeah.
Like I remember when that was first announced, like a year ago. Oh man, it was like the greatest thing ever.
Oh yeah.
Yes, they're gonna finally do the Killing Joke. We've had all these garbage, like new Batman animated movies that have just been terrible. They were all bad. Ever since Dark Knight Returns, they've been bad.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Assault on Arkham was okay. It wasn't great. And then Batman and Robin was terrible. Batman vs. Robin was terrible. Could have been great. And they were both not very good. Or, they weren't terrible, but underwhelming.
Yeah.
And so it was like, finally, we're going back to their actual stories and adapting the stories.
Yeah.
And then as it kind of got closer, we heard more and more information about it, and then there was going to be this whole other story added on to it and other stuff, which, when you first heard it, kind of made sense, because you're like, well, it is really short, but we don't really want that. We want the Killing Joke. And then it got even worse than that with stuff that I was hearing about, it's going to be about Batgirl and, other terrible things. And
But then you heard that it was rated R, and that was pretty exciting.
yeah. And anyway, so unfortunately that kind of talk had tampered my views a little bit before I went to go see it. I saw it actually, the one-day screening event that they did on like Monday, I think the 3rd, August 3rd, I think. And I went to go see it there in the theater, which was really cool. It's the first animated movie, Batman animated movie I've seen in the theater. But it did fantastic. I think it made like $4 million in that like one day. Like it's like the highest grossing like Warner Brothers animated movie ever. Like, just from that. And it's been at the top of the charts on DVD sales ever since it came out, like a week later.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy how now it's especially with the comic
and
resurgence.
Batman 5 Superman are the two highest selling DVDs and have been for like the past month. And
I know, it's crazy. One is like a $500 million picture, budget marketing, and the other is a little anime movie that, is like all the others, but it's right up there with, kind of cult following and popularity,
Yeah, so anyway, the movie came out and started, and it was like, what the heck is this?
Yeah, I mean, the opening narration is kind of like, almost breaking fourth wall, where she was like, this is the way you expect, huh? You didn't think it would open with me. I'm like, no, I didn't, but okay.
You do realize that if it's this bad, if it's going to affect people this much, to have to put that like basically a disclaimer at the beginning of the movie, I feel like that's a big old red flag going up for that.
No, you're right. Because like, I mean, they know like immediately when people hear like Batgirl's voice, they're like, what? It's like, okay, calm down. Like, yeah, you're right. It's like a disclaimer.
Yeah. And
it's like, wait, before you turn it off.
Before I even saw it, once I heard a Batgirl story, I automatically didn't care. I'm like, I don't care about Batgirl. This is about Batman and the Joker, the quintessential Batman and Joker story, and you're gonna clutter it up with a random Batgirl story that ended up being awful and did not tie in one single way to the Killing Joke.
The only like tie-in it had or a purpose it had was, I guess, making the moment. When she gets, spoilers obviously, the moment when she gets paralyzed more impactful by, fleshing her out a little bit more. But even then, we know the character. We already know it's coming if you've read the book. And so, like the first 20 minutes, because you're like, get to the Joker. You're like, oh.
No, that's exactly why. And that's one of the more frustrating things. That's exactly why And
Which
that was
I can understand the idea, but what they did in that idea is where I get pretty mad. But not mad where I hate the movie, by any means, but mad that I mean, we'll talk about the one scene I think we probably mean a great link on already.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say so. But yeah,
so
it wasn't even good. Like, it was terrible. It was like a bad Batman animated series episode.
It was a bad soap opera. That's the feeling I got. It was a soap opera. I'm like, when did Batman become a soap opera? Like, she was in the library talking to her gay librarian coworker. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, it's like, what? This is some Days of Our Lives stuff talking about the relationship problems. It's like,
right.
We're in the right movie, right? Like,
I'm like, is this a sitcom all of a sudden? Well, this is Will and Grace?
No, it wasn't even a sitcom. Soap
no,
opera. It wasn't even a sitcom.
Yeah. But, I mean, I guess we should probably talk about, like, you're not a Batgirl fan, I take it. I'm not at all.
I mean, I don't normally dislike the character.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's fine. If it's used, but it's a sidekick role. It's a secondary role. I mean, that's what it is. It's kind of an older sidekick, kind of like it's like a Nightwing type thing. It's literally bridges the gap between, like, the younger, like, Jason Todd or Tim Drake Robin and Nightwing. It bridges. Yeah. It's like in between those ages, and it kind of bridges that gap. That's really all it really does. I mean, the only time I've had too much exposure to even Batgirl is in the Batman animated series when she became one of the main characters in the new Adventures of Batman and Robin.
Yeah, and that's when I started to fall off.
Which is fine. I love the new Adventures of Batman. I like it just as much as I like the original animated series. Mm-hmm. And I don't mind Batgirl at all in that one. I like the character. It fits well with the younger Tim Drake kind of with him. Anyway, I don't mind the character. But to try and flesh out a Batgirl character just because you want to make a Batgirl thing, don't do that. Make its own movie. Make a Batgirl movie if you want to do this. Like, have that be part of a Batgirl movie that nobody will go see because it would be awful.
Yeah, they're obviously not, hesitant to flesh out some, like, sidekick character that we don't care about. I mean, son of Batman and shit like that, Yeah. It's like, I mean, again, these movies cost very little because they're animated, it's no big deal. But yeah, it's like, why would you take the big killing joke that everyone's waiting for and add all this fluff, that we don't need or want?
And that is the biggest disappointment with all that, is that they did that with the killing joke.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was very disappointing. That whole first 30 minutes, you're just sitting there just like...
Yeah.
Just like, why? Like, oh, it's so bad. Everything about it. Batman's bad. Batgirl's terrible. The villain is just laughably horrible. And the story is even worse. And it's like, what is the story? It's literally a relationship soap opera between Batgirl and Batman. That's what the story is. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
And it's just it's disappointing. Again, that's the word with DC for the past 2 years has been disappointing. Just one after another. Disappointing, disappointing, disappointing. The last thing DC made that was not disappointing was the Dark Knight Returns animated movies.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's the first 20 minutes. It's like you have to check. Like, I had to check the title. I'm like, okay, I didn't click on the wrong movie. This is a killing joke, right? Oh, okay. Right. But yeah, I mean, of course, we should talk about the fact that Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill are back in this movie. I mean, as soon as I hear Kevin Conroy's voice, the cockles of my inside just warm up, and it's like, even in this schlock, as soon as you hear Kevin Conroy, like, school Batgirl, you're like, as stupid as this is, yes.
Yeah. I mean, if there's any positive, it's just hearing Kevin Conroy's Batman. Yeah, for sure. Because it doesn't matter what it is, it's still enjoyable.
Nope.
And it's Batman. Yeah, so it was great hearing Kevin Conroy. And so basically, it's just this random story of Batgirl who's going through this, like, teen daughter phase of not wanting to be told what to do by Batman, even though she's screwing up everything every time she does something, and then getting mad when Batman gets mad at her for doing something stupid.
Yeah, it felt like an episode of, like, Buffy the Vampire Slayer more than Batman.
Yeah, but it's like this weird like almost like a parental relationship, and then all of a sudden it turns farther than that.
Exactly. I mean, and that's kind of always the relationship that you've kind of taken away from Batman and Batgirl, or Batman and anyone. Robin is a father, mentor, teacher, definitely relationship, and so in this, for them to just throw that all out the window and light it on fire for what amounts to nothing, I guess maybe shock and this isn't like our other animated movies, like. I was so pissed off when that happened. I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!"
Oh, it was so bad. So basically, yeah,
they get mad, and then they get mad at each other, and then they end up on top. Batgirl ends up on top of Batman, and they have sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously.
As blunt as I just put it. Yeah. And it's so stupid.
Thing. And then the aftermath is even worse.
God, yeah, that's where it got. That's where I'm like, okay, this is Days of Our Lives.
It just gets worse and worse, and then it's like, he's avoiding me, and they're not talking about it. It's like, what is this?
The only thing I did like though was how much of an asshole Batman is. She's like, we need to talk. He's like, later.
Yeah.
She's like, no, we need to talk now. No, I'm like,
yeah,
like that motherfucker. But still, it's like, yeah, God. Yeah. It was so frustrating because you're like, why? Just why? Because
that is what everybody has been saying. Why?
Yeah, and people were like, "Oh, it's because you worship these characters too much." It's like, no, it's because Batman sleeping with Batgirl is his friend's daughter. It's almost his daughter for how much he mentors her and guides her. Yep. For him to just Batman's that creepy perverted teacher who sleeps with one of his students. It makes him weak because it makes him weak.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing about it is good.
No.
Nothing about the Batgirl character development in this was good.
No.
Now. Like there's nothing you can pull out from that.
She went to her dark place and almost crossed that line. It's like no, you had some asshole like teasing you. The Joker has dealt with. The Batman has dealt with the Joker for years, who's almost driven him insane, and you almost lose it on some gangster who's been flirting with you. It's like no.
Yeah, it was not good. It was a weak villain. I don't even know if that's an actual character from anything.
I've never heard it.
Paris France.
It's too stupid to make up.
And that character was just so. Every time I was there, it was just like, why?
Honestly, I was really worried because I kind of realized because I knew if it had been a certain way, I would have heard it from you. Because honestly, at first I was worried because I didn't know anything about what happens in the movie other than like the sex scene. I was like, please don't tell me that they're going to try and pull a twist and he be like the Joker. And then I thought myself, I was like, no, I would have heard about it raining from the skies that happened. I'm like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Because there was that one Batman was like talking about Paris France and he was like, he'll have you smiling at the end. I was like, don't do it. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, at least if that was the case, there would have been some sort of connection.
Yeah.
There was no connection. Nothing. Like, why couldn't we have like some sort of beginning where I don't know, where they're like
flashback of when Batman puts Joker in Arkham?
Yeah, anything like that. If there was anything, but why would you do it not related to the Joker? Like
that, I don't know. I don't know whose idea it was to a third of the film be about Batgirl and be a metaphor. I don't know.
And then the whole thing of her, being like, "Oh well, okay, I quit now," and it's like, what?
Yeah, that's the reason for quitting. That was the best we could come up with.
Yeah, it was like, and you're quitting, so this is like the last Batgirl story, and then it's supposed to go right into her, like, getting shot in the Killing Joke. It's like,
wait a, yeah.
I don't. There's some sort of logic there, but it's not very logical.
It's beyond me.
It's not good. Anyway, so the beginning was just absolutely awful. It was terrible. Nothing good about it. It was boring. It was long. Yeah. It was drawn out. You literally were sitting there like, man, they're just trying to fill time.
Yeah, it did feel like that. It has at least be like 80 minutes, I think. So, yeah. But yeah, but of all the things you could have done, yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, that was that. It ends, and it literally is like, here's our little thing, and then it ends, and then Killing Joke starts. Like, it doesn't even go into it. It's just here, and then forget about that, and then here.
Yeah. Oh.
Anyway, so then we get to the actual movie.
Then the real movie, the real movie starts.
And the Killing Joke starts. Which just starts a little bit different. They start with, like, the Batman going to find the bodies of all these, like, kidnapped dentists from 3 years before, which that's not in the book as far as I remember. But I mean, it's fine. It's just, it's a way to start and whatever.
Yeah.
And but yeah, and then we go straight into it where Batman's going to Arkham to talk to the Joker and kind of be like, almost kind of like a final conversation of like, look, like we've been doing this for years. It just keeps going back and forth.
Yeah.
You go around killing people. I stop you. I put you in here. You get out. You end up killing people. It's like it's just this never-ending cycle, and it's eventually going to have to end either with you killing me or me killing you.
Yeah.
And it's basically him just kind of laying everything down for him, which is really weird because you never see Batman do that. So it's a totally different take on the character.
I liked it, yeah.
And I think it works really well. It wouldn't work with any other villain, I don't think, except for the Joker.
No,
at least not this way. He definitely tries to rehabilitate people like Harvey and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But it's different.
He knows that deep down the Joker is a lost cause.
He knows that the Joker has nothing to do with rehabilitation. It has to do with a conscious choice.
Yeah.
At least at this point.
Yeah, basically Batman is saying, basically, please don't make me kill you because this is where it's going. Whereas other villains, I wouldn't have to, or I might be able to rehabilitate you. Right. But I mean, the Joker is so dangerous and so maniacal that Batman knows that he has to be stopped eventually because obviously putting him in putting him in Arkham isn't working.
Which I think that's so cool, like him talking to him like that, because it's him talking to him like he's a completely sane person, the Joker.
Yeah.
Because, and in this, I feel like more than any other book, you find out that the Joker is a sane person.
Yeah, I mean...
And he purposefully chooses to not be sane. He even talks about that with Commissioner Gordon later, when he's like,
great.
Choose madness, because it's way easier and all this stuff. And that's what he does.
And the scary part is you actually understand that. You look at everything going on today, you're like, oh my god, it would be so much easier to, shake everything off and just... laugh at it and actually have to face it and deal with it. And you're like, right. And yet, it's really kind of a side of the Joker that we've never seen before, where you can actually reason with him, why the way he is.
Yeah, and then at the end, it's fully fleshed out.
Yeah, it was great.
But anyway, so then he's in there talking with him, and then finds it's an impersonator. So Joker's gotten loose again. Surprise, because that never happens.
Right.
We don't know how, which would have kind of been interesting, but...
Again, that could have been another way to pad the running time.
That would have been better. Like, why couldn't we have a thing of the Joker escaping or anything like that? But no.
Yeah. It cuts to him buying the circus or the carnival.
Oh, yeah.
From the guy. Mm-hmm. And that's when, it's revealed that it's actually him, We finally hear Mark Hamill.
Right. Which is... fantastic. We finally get Mark Hamill talking, which...
Yeah.
I mean, as much as Kevin Conroy is the voice of Batman, Mark Hamill is the voice of Joker. Like,
oh, God, yeah. They're synonymous, yeah.
And nobody's been... I mean, Batman is an easy enough voice to do.
Yeah.
It is. There's been plenty of people that have done Batmans. Bruce Greenwood has done great
I guarantee
Batmans.
You can go down the street and find someone who could have a really good Batman voice. Yeah.
Bruce Greenwood did a great Batman in, like, Under the Red Hood and a couple other of those movies. And Peter Weller. Peter Weller did the voice of it.
And the guy in the video games who also did the Joker, I think Troy Baker, he actually did a good Batman in one of the games, I forget. He did both.
Yeah. I think in Arkham Origins, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. He did both.
And, but the Joker, that just hasn't... And there's been plenty of animated voices of the Joker, and some of them have been fine, but...
Yeah, I like the one in the Red Hood.
There's such a far, just, level that Mark Hamill is just so...
It's almost like Mark Hamill does the true Joker, and everyone else has to do their own thing. Where, like,
it's like you have to adapt it.
Yeah, you have to just be like, okay, you can't even try to do an impression of Mark Hamill's. We just have to do our own thing entirely. Like, I think sometimes he's had kind of like a Brooklyn, New Yorker accent almost. Like, I forget who did the voice for Joker, like Under the Red Hood.
For
like,
Under the Red Hood, it was John DiMaggio.
yeah, so you kind of like it's kind of like that. And also Heath Ledger had to do like his own voice for like, yeah, you just can't compete.
Anyway, so we get to hear Mark Hamill finally, and just hearing Mark Hamill as the Joker saying Alan Moore's lines is just, it's the greatest thing ever. It is. It's amazing. Any other thing with that movie, it doesn't even matter. It's worth it just to hear him do those monologues.
Yeah.
It's
brilliant. It's hearing it spoken as it always like should have been. Yeah. Like, if you ever had to listen to like the audio version, like you could never have anyone else. Like it'd have to be, it's common sense.
Yeah.
This is how it should be heard.
It's just fantastic. And
oh yeah.
Anyway, he gets the carnival, kills the guy. The guy looks all creepy, dead with that smile on the little rocking little elephant or whatever. And he just leaves him there, just the whole time,
yeah,
the whole time. Batman comes later, like way later, and he's still
there.
Sitting there. That cuts right to the Commissioner Gordon's, visiting Barbara Gordon, just like from the comic, and pretty much everything was pulled right from the page. It felt like.
Yeah, from that point on, yeah.
And then you have knock the door, her going over, and then you have that still of the Joker sitting there smiling with the gun, with just the black, with just the little sparkle eyes just coming out of there. It is the creepiest look. Yeah. It's the creepiest look ever. When you don't even see his face, you just see the smile, and then the little like silver eyes.
And like to me, like no matter how good of an actor you find, I can't imagine anyone be able to capture that like evilness and that abyss, like like it is in the image and like it is in this movie.
Yeah.
No matter who you get, it's like just that iconic. I mean, it's a frozen picture, but still it terrifies you and
it's brilliant, and it's done so well. They did it with the slow motion and everything. Oh, it's so effective.
Oh my god, yeah.
It's so like they draw that moment out.
Yeah. Because if it was quick, it would defeat it. But like,
right. No, you like get her like staring at him like smiling bigger at her.
There's no escaping it. Yeah.
Just putting the gun to her, and then it's so good. And then you have he shoots her, and then you have her laying there, and Commissioner Gordon going and freaking out, and then you just have one of the most heartless bastard little speeches ever. Him just making fun of her.
I wouldn't worry yet if I were you. It's just a psychological manifestation, common among librarians. She thinks she's the coffee table edition, though I can't say much for this volume's condition. I mean, there's a hole in the jacket, and the spine appears to be damaged.
And the amount of like librarian puns and book puns that he's able to come up with, I'm like, that's why he's the greatest.
Oh man, it's brutal. Like, it's so bad that it's and it's so, but it's kind of funny at the same time because it's clever.
And to me, that's what is like the perfect embodiment of a perfect villain is where you're terrified of them, you hate what they're doing, but you can't help but like be somewhat entertained and somewhat respect them and still enjoy their presence almost, even if you hate, you're killing a character that we love, but you're like, oh my god, I just want to see more of you on screen, but at the same time you don't, because you know what's going to happen.
Right. And he does the, his little jokes where he's like, it's a common occurrence with librarians. She thinks she's a coffee table. Or a coffee table edition.
Yeah, but you're horrified and you're like, I shouldn't be laughing.
Right. He's like, well, but the jacket looks a little damaged, and
the spine is no good.
Right? Yeah. He's like, that spine is in rough shape, and you're just like, oh man.
Not completely unaffected by the fact that he just paralyzed someone.
It's brutal.
I mean, it's a true heart of evil,
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Oh god.
And then they end up kidnaps Commissioner Gordon. This cuts to then it cuts to the the second flashback of the Joker. And
which I'm actually one of those people where I don't really, I kind of prefer the Joker not to have a backstory because it makes him more, enigmatic and mysterious, and just this force of nature that, can contend with Batman comes out of nowhere. And that's what makes him so terrifying, is that, Batman spent decades building himself up to be this ultimate power, and then this guy just comes out of nowhere, has no rules, no foundation. But if I had to have a backstory, this is what I want.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think they still even set it up, like, even in this story, where it's still vague.
Yeah, we don't know his name.
Right.
We don't see, like, what he does right after the chemicals, like, where does he get the purple suit, where, blah, blah, blah. And, yeah, I agree. So I thought it was perfect.
Yeah.
In terms of backstory for Joker.
Yeah, I definitely agree, though, with having a backstory be vague.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite parts with The Dark Knight, with Heath Ledger.
Yeah, probably
as
not
much
much
as
time.
as much as it wasn't accurate in almost any way, that part was, and that part was great. Where he's saying the different stories of.
Oh yeah, because like the first one you hear when he's talking about the scars, you're like, okay, I guess that's where it is. And then the second time when he starts talking about his life, you're like, he's full of shit.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
And that is what the Joker is. At least
Exactly. Yeah. Which, even though I understand, it's completely different derailment from the character being like more of an anarchist and more of a terrorist than what the Joker typically is, they still capture at the heart of what the Joker is and how he's just nothing. He stands for nothing, and that's what makes him so, much of a foil for Batman.
Yeah. Well, we get the flashbacks of the Joker where he's a struggling comedian living in a slum with a pregnant wife, and
married, yeah.
Can't get any work really. Is bad comedian.
It's pathetic, yeah.
Yeah, and so he eventually, kind of says forget it, and then decides he's gonna try and do one big, crime to try and get his family out of this like poverty that he's in.
Yeah.
And everything makes sense. The character makes sense. The motivation makes sense.
Yeah. It almost makes you feel for the Joker. Like, it's so weird seeing a human side of the Joker. Like God, actually, it all makes kind of sense other than, just some crazy guy going off his meds, and turning into the way he is. Like, no, it's like he used to be, someone that you probably know, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the only thing, though, is it still throws me off hearing Mark Hamill do that.
Oh, yeah, it was weird.
It just sounds really weird.
Yeah.
And I can't even explain why, but it just, I don't know.
I kind of wonder how it would be if they had gotten a different actor to do the voice of him as a normal person.
Yeah.
And kind of like what it would be like, the ultimate transformation is when we hear Mark Hamill's voice. I think I might would maybe like that too, but
maybe.
But yeah, it was still, it was so weird. Like, oh my God, Mark Hamill.
It was just
so
so
Mark Hamill.
off-putting.
Yeah.
But it was fine. He did a fine job with it.
Yeah. I like how you kind of hear the subtleties of the Joker's voice that we know, kind of every now and then, kind of popping up, like it's deep down inside of him.
And anyway, so it's him. He's with the other criminals, saying he's gonna do this thing with them.
Yeah, he's gonna provide services to the mob.
And they explain he has to wear the red hood, and then they explain that the red hood's not even an actual crime boss; it's just a facade for.
Yeah.
It's a fall guy for
fall guy, yeah.
And anyway, then it cuts back to Batgirl in the hospital. Which, another thing about the flashbacks is I feel like they worked a lot better in the book than they did in the movie. And I still appreciate them doing everything from the book in the movie. But it definitely didn't flow as well. Because in the book, it was very, very carefully drawn out to where like each frame was the same frame that transitioned into and out of the flashback, and they didn't do that at all. And
I
so
agree.
It did kind of seem a little bit choppy, but again, I don't care because they did it the way it was, done in the book, so I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
You got Batgirl paralyzed there or Barbara Gordon with Batman there, and then this is when Batman kind of flips out a little bit.
Yeah.
And then he just goes nuts trying to track down the Joker, just. Beating up thugs and stuff, and then he just walks right into the mob. Like,
I love that scene where he's at the door and the mob guy opens the door. He's like, step away.
He doesn't step away from the door. We didn't even tell him to open it. He's like, no,
Right.
I'm gonna blow it up. Just leave.
He's like, you know, I'm gonna blow it up. Step away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like, and also like in The Dark Knight, it has that great line, kind of similar in this movie, where he's talking to the mob boss, and the mob boss is like, we're afraid of you, we're terrified of the Joker. It's like,
Yeah.
we're terrified. We know you're gonna come and break our bones, but we don't know what the Joker is gonna do, and that's why we're more afraid of him than we are of you. And it's great. It completely captures the dynamic of the two.
Yeah, exactly. And then it cuts to, we cut to the carnival where Jim Gordon is being woken up by the creepiest looking
Oh,
things
God, yeah.
you've ever seen in anything. That all I can say is "Op, op."
Yeah. Oh God.
And
I don't even know what they're supposed to be, but
I don't know. And then they strip him naked and they put on a dog collar on him.
oh yeah, really, really degrading.
Yeah, just completely just embarrassing, completely humiliating this guy who's the commissioner of police.
Right.
And dragging him out, and there's all these just basically just freak show characters. They have this creepy demon midgets. You have the two-headed woman, the
Beard
fat
lady.
You have the
Wolfman.
Yeah, like the animal boy, and then some other bald guy. I don't really know what he was.
Yeah,
but
he was kind of like the one big guy almost looks like Killer Croc, like his face. I was like, oh.
Yeah, and then it was like a giant, all these just random characters, and
Yeah. But then you have the Joker, holding court. Another great line, where he's like, order in the court. And it's like, oh, the ham all right. The crowd is like, oh, God.
Yeah.
It's like, they're not all good.
He's like, not all classics are. It doesn't have to be good to be a classic.
Yeah. I like how, like, they're not afraid, and they feel like they have to laugh, even they're like, oh, no.
Yeah. It's like, oh, come on. That was great. I did enjoy that. So yeah, basically, Joker is saying like, you're gonna go mad. I'm gonna basically drive you insane. I just killed, because Commissioner Gordon doesn't even know what happened to Barbara at this point. He was taken.
Oh, yeah.
For all he knows, she was dead. She's dead.
Yeah, or they're doing God knows what to her. Yeah.
Right. So he's like, basically, I'm gonna drive you insane. So that's his whole goal. That's his entire goal of this, is to prove that anybody could have turned into him under the right circumstances.
And it's almost more terrifying in that situation if you're Jim Gordon, hearing that the Joker, what he wants to do is drive you mad. Other than it'd be one thing if he wants to kill you, you at least you kind of know what's going to happen. You're going to die. Whereas I feel like hearing the Joker be like, okay, my mission right now is you, and I'm going to drive you mad. And you're going to find out how exactly I'm going to do that. To me, that'd be way worse. It's like, oh my God. Because if anyone can come up with the most sadistic ways to torment someone, it's the Joker.
Oh, I totally agree. So he basically runs him through this ride, and where the first thing is that, mock court scene. Where basically, he's saying all these things about people breaking the law, and what would you do to this person? He's like, I'd throw the book at him, basically, is what he says. And then it ends up, he's talking about Batman, which was obvious, but, effective.
Which I feel
and
like
that part wasn't from the book either. But it was.
And I feel like they could have gone a little bit more into that, but
Yeah, but I liked it.
Yeah.
And then he sends him through this, the ride, like a Monster House type ride, and
you get the little song.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Then it does. We have a nice Broadway number, which is funny because it's kind of off-putting, but that is in the book.
Yeah, and it fits.
But in the book, you don't hear music or singing, so you're just reading it. And so it's kind of off-putting when you watch it, and you're like, oh yeah, that is supposed to be a song.
But if you can forgive any character for all of a sudden bursting into song, it'd be the Joker.
Yeah, especially Mark Hamill doing it.
Right.
It's classic Broadway actor. It's perfect. That scene was great. That just of him being so happy, singing this happy Broadway song.
Yeah,
it's completely horrible, with Gordon going through this maze of horror, ending with him seeing all the pictures of a naked, shot Barbara Gordon.
His paralyzed daughter being violated, basically. Oh God, yeah, you can't imagine. And it's the Joker at his happiest, is him laughing at people's worst suffering, and that's what makes it so evil.
That's exactly right.
Your nightmares and your worst day ever is his entertainment.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. It's the Joker's best day is your worst day.
And that's why he's the greatest villain ever, above anyone else, I think.
Yeah, I would definitely put him right up at the top of,
Yeah,
with the greatest villains of all time.
easily.
Um, I mean, and that's the reason for it. It's just you cannot get any more evil than that character.
Yeah,
You can't. When it's the essence of when you are miserable, he is happy. He has no goal.
no,
It's just
not even
make-
not even to take over the world. Literally, he just
No.
goes from person to person. Oh, you're gonna be my entertainment for the next
Exactly.
until you kill yourself.
That.
And that's why he's so evil. The spontaneity of like, oh, I'm just gonna ruin your life. He doesn't want global domination. He doesn't want this. I mean, he wants to laugh, but it just so happens his way of laughing is from your suffering. It's like, oh god.
Yeah, exactly. That's why the character's just brilliant because it's almost all psychological. Everything.
Oh
he
yeah,
does.
he's not. Everyone knows he can't take Batman on in a physical fight, and
No.
and that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, so he's trying to drive Gordon insane. And Gordon's basically like catatonic after that.
Oh
almost.
yeah.
And then he's disappointed that he's like, "Oh, you're boring. You weren't supposed to be boring here."
Yeah, I mean, of course, he wanted that, that ultimate breakdown of, just Gordon's foundation just collapsing, and but yeah, he goes catatonic. It's like, oh, that's not as good.
Yeah, and then you get Batman.
Yeah, he leaves a hint. Obviously, he leaves a hint for Batman to come find him.
Right. Yeah, he leaves him the ticket.
Yeah.
So Batman shows up at the carnival and everything's ready on him. He has to kind of go through a little gauntlet of all those kind of weird freak show people and.
Got a little action, yeah.
Yeah, you have to have some, and then
And then he rescues Gordon, and it turns out that Gordon, despite everything that's happened to him, is still sane.
Mhm.
And it kind of shows you, and it kind of puts that question in your mind of maybe it is just the Joker. Maybe not everyone does go insane or will go insane if
right.
certain things happen to them. It really is. He just snapped.
Mhm. And then Batman chases the Joker into another house of mirrors, which is the same thing as from Dark Knight Returns, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
It's
Carnival.
kinda
Yeah.
interesting. But and then they have that weird scene when he goes in that upside down room, which that's not from the book at all. I mean, the scene is, but not like in that setting. That was kind of strange.
Yeah, I guess it looked like it was supposed to be a recreation of his apartment with his wife, but upside down.
Oh, I never even thought of that.
I think so. It doesn't
think
quite
you're
look
right.
like it, but I think that was what the purpose was.
Oh, okay. I didn't even get that. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's like during it, he's kind of talking about, my memory is, I like my memories to be multiple choice.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you have, their kind of confrontation and.
I like how in a lot of other animated series or movies their confrontation it lasts a good long time, but in this one it's pretty quick. I mean he hits him with a frying pan a couple times in the room and they fight. Batman's telling him I forget what he's like saying.
Well, he
saying,
says basically Joker's saying I drove Gordon insane, proving that I'm no different than anybody else.
Right,
Anybody can be like, and Batman's like, no, actually, Gordon's fine. He'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
This didn't happen to anybody. This is just you.
Right.
Which they use that exact same thing in The Dark Knight.
It was great.
It was the exact. I mean, it was it was a different plot, but it was the exact same thing. It's
Yeah,
the Joker
when
being
the,
like, look, I'm going to show you that these, and he even says that when the chips are down, they'll eat each other and all this thing. And at the end, it's like, no, it's just you. You're alone.
And if you think about it, especially in Dark Knight, I mean, Batman kind of fails because the Joker, the Joker has him pinned and he has everything set, and but the Joker's like, no, I'm going to show you that I don't even have to. People are just going to do it on their own.
Right.
And it's not even Batman who stops it. It's everyone else showing him that the Joker is alone.
Right.
It's great.
And that story plotline is so brilliant. It's so good because then you really get the Joker just kind of snapping a little bit and just he's kind of defeated right there, and then
he's angry.
Batman, takes him, keeps beating him, and throws him through the window, and then the Joker has a gun, gets to it, and.
God damn it. Well, what are you waiting for? Kick the hell out of me and get your standing ovation.
And goes and he shoots and he's just like, click, click. It's like,
God damn it. He's like, all right, go ahead then.
That
like,
was
he doesn't
funny.
care.
Everyone in the theater laughed at that. He's just like, God damn it, and just throws it down. It's like, crap. It's like, all right, get it over with. And then that's when you have the conversation Batman tried to have at the beginning with him. There, where he's like, look, we'll keep doing this, forever. Like, eventually, I'm gonna kill you, or you're gonna kill me.
Yeah.
And it's this very real moment of like,
oh yeah,
I have to at least know I tried to,
Yeah, and to me that captures the heart of Batman. Is that in the end, even though all these terrible things happen to him, his parents and everything else happens once he becomes Batman, that he still has hope. He has hope for Gotham. He has hope even for people like the Joker. And that's why I felt like Batman vs Superman, him just killing people was such a betrayal of the character, because it's Batman without hope, and Batman, even no matter what he does, he wants to try and be the hero, and him saving someone is more important than him really himself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't get to see that a whole lot with Batman, because Batman's pretty ruthless for the most part.
Sure.
And every now and then you get to see that is still in there with him.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important. That, like you said, is glossed over in these other movies way too much. But yeah, it's just such a great moment where he's like, I have to at least know that I tried. He's like, let me help you. Let me try and rehabilitate you. And you see the Joker. This is where you know the Joker's not insane.
Yeah.
Or not all the time.
Yeah.
That you know that he chooses to be, because he stops and he has a very real moment of him thinking about it. And then he's like, but then I feel like he thinks about kind of everything, and then he's just like, no, there's no way. Like,
yeah, at the end of the day, he probably realizes where's the fun in that. That wouldn't be fun if we're drinking coffee together, sitting down, and how it should have ended. He's like, no, this is fun. You trying to stop me trying to kill you, or me killing other people. Yeah, that's what he enjoys. He doesn't want that to end.
Right. And
but yeah, I mean, like going back to what you said, like you kind of see this moment where is the Joker almost in face value, where he's not completely crazy, because Joker's always either cracking puns or doing all this other stuff, but in this moment he's very serious. And I feel like that was kind of one thing that bothered me about the Jared Leto Joker, the Suicide Squad, is that every scene it kind of felt like he had to remind you that he was crazy, where it was never that confidence of like being able to like, just one line he kind of says it with a straight face or a straight voice. It's like, no, every line has to be eccentric, every line has to be the Joker. The word I would use confidence, and obviously Mark Hamill has that from playing the Joker for almost 30 years now.
Yeah, and that's just such a great moment. And he's just like, no, and then he stops and he tells the joke.
Oh man.
See, there were two guys locked in a lunatic asylum. And one night they decided they didn't like that anymore. They decided to escape. So they made it up to the roof, and there, just across this narrow gap, they see rooftops stretching across town, stretching to freedom. Now, the first guy, he jumps right across, no problem. But his friend, oh, no way. He's afraid of falling. So the first guy, he has an idea. He says, hey, I got this flashlight with me. I'll shine it across the gap between the buildings, and you can walk across the beam and join me. But the second guy says, what do you think I am, crazy? You just turn it off when I'm halfway across. Oh, excuse me.
Which is just great. And one, that's not a bad joke.
No.
And two, I was looking up some other stuff, and it's actually like very like metaphorical for their relationship, basically. Mm-hmm. Which I didn't look too much into it. I'm not as much into the metaphors and stuff as I watch I watch movies mostly for face value stuff. But it definitely had a thing, because they're both in a totally different level, which is another thing they mentioned in Dark Knight too. Another good element of the Joker that they got is they're the same, Batman and the Joker. They're these two wild characters way outside of every normal person.
Yeah.
And that nobody else can possibly understand.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just like two inmates, type thing, and
You're right. Yeah.
and basically, it's basically they're never gonna get to freedom. Like, it's just not possible for these two characters.
Yeah, they counterbalance each other out,
Right.
whereas this chaos that can only
And there can
exist
never
with
be
a-
that connection between the two.
Yeah,
of them.
yeah. I mean, it really is metaphorical. I mean, you can study that joke. The gap being the relationship. And crossing the line of killing each other, and you can take a lot from that joke, and it does perfectly kind of coincide with the scene and their dynamic. But it was perfect joke for that moment,
Yeah. And then you get
because it
to
was
have-
also funny.
Yeah, it is. It's a good joke. Then you get them. He just starts laughing, which is just great. He's just
Like,
laughing
of
at his
course,
own
yeah.
joke. He's just like,
Yeah. Even despite failing and not killing Batman, now he's
Right.
laughing. Yeah.
and then Batman starts laughing, which you never get to see.
And oh my god, like just hearing Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy laughing together, like
Yeah.
it was so weird, but also so fulfilling and
And then you just, and that's it. You just hear them laughing,
it's great.
and then then you just hear Batman laughing,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's it.
Yeah.
Super
Yeah.
ambiguous ending, and that's the $1 million question that
Which-
everybody debates. Is
Which
did
I'm
Batman
not
kill him or not?
typically a fan of ambiguous endings,
Yeah.
depending on the movie. But in this one, I think it works. Where I
This
know
and
sometimes.
Inception.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Perfect. Yeah. Because it kind of says a lot about you, about what you believe happens. Like in Inception, if you're a realist, you believe it was still a dream, blah blah blah. But if you're an optimist, if you believe in like happy endings, you believe that he got back to his family. Same thing with this. I
Right.
mean, I'm curious to see what kind of you think maybe might have happened.
Yeah, well, I want to know what you think about
I
what
mean,
happened at the end.
I love Batman. I love Batman. At the end of the day, above everything else, the fact that he's a hero. So of course, I believe one of the things that the Joker antagonizes him with is the idea that he knows Batman wants to kill him, and he wants Batman to kill him to kind of prove a point, and also for Batman to cross that line and kind of come to where he is. But Batman, his moral struggle is that he can't, because it would defeat him. His character would defeat what Batman stands for about just being a vigilante.
He walks on such a thin line.
Yeah, he holds himself to his code and his virtues, and So I mean, I like to believe that Batman never does cross that line, but at the same time, if he were to just kill the Joker, it's kind of like when Gordon's like, do it by the book. I need you to do it by book. And of course, Batman normally would, but also kind of looking about what happened with Barbara, what happened to all the people Joker is hurt. Batman is kind of a hero and sacrifices his character and his morals to be like, you know what, I know it's wrong for me to kill him, but I might have to do this to save my friends, and that's why he would kill him. Not just because I hate you. But at the end of the day, I do think they laugh until the police show up, and he gets put back in Arkham, and it's almost sad because it just keeps it keeps adding to what he pointed out of we just keep going down this road. The same thing happens, but I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I've thought about this quite a bit, actually, because
Sure.
everything in the book points to him killing him.
Sure.
The whole story. The title, the Killing Joke, because that was the Killing Joke,
Yeah.
that last thing. Constantly, the talk of this has to end one way or another. Batman giving him one last chance type thing.
Yeah.
All this stuff, kind of points to that ending. The only thing to me that doesn't is Commissioner Gordon saying bring him in by the book.
Right.
And I'm in the same impression as you are. Regardless of what anything points to or other things, like I'm under the impression that he doesn't.
Yeah.
I
kinda
can
see
totally
that
understand
also.
people that think that he does, because I could get that. But to me, the Killing Joke and this whole thing that's basically cementing them in this path of destruction.
Yes, you're right.
Forever.
Absolutely.
It's basically it kills any chance of anything. That's it.
Yeah.
This was the last stopping off point, and their point of no return now.
Yeah, you're right.
So I mean that's why I like to look at it. Just because I'm with you looking at Batman, you know, not killing or whatever.
Yeah, I mean the Joker wins if he does, you know, cross that line, and yeah, I mean I feel like, you know, he wants to, especially after everything that just happened to Commissioner Gordon, where, you know, he could have easily gone insane and he just didn't. I feel like if Commissioner Gordon has seen Batman cross that line too of killing the Joker, then I feel like maybe that could push him over the edge of, you know, he'd be like, I just pretty much lost my daughter, and now the guy I put on pedestal, you know, and kind of worship has crossed the line, so what's the point of me staying sane, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of why I think Batman becomes the hero that he really is, and goes, even though I want to, even though it would end all this, I can't kill you because of what that would do to Gordon, you know, what that would make, you know, me look like and everything. Yeah.
So that's what I like to believe.
Yeah.
Obviously,
but again, I like how it's left to your own.
Yeah.
You can interpret it any way you want.
I do like that. So anyway, I mean that's the story, and then we have that little bit at the end. They do the thing with Barbara Gordon as Oracle, which is like whatever, it's fine.
Oh, I didn't. I turned it off before that. To me, it ended. I'm like, okay, that's good.
Yeah, there was a little mid-credit scene of her like as Oracle, and this is like, yeah, okay, whatever. They're trying to tie back into that first stupid story.
Again, I mean, like, here we are talking about how brilliant the ending is and brilliant the Joker. I mean, it's a perfect, you know, relationship of the Batman and Joker. This is how they're supposed to be. I mean, the Dark Knight also captured that really well, but this is pretty much it. You know, it encompasses everything, and it's so frustrating to talk about how brilliant it is and just remember there's 20 minutes of a handicap that preceded this. You know.
Yeah, which ultimately that's the disappointment that they had to tarnish this story with that garbage beginning, and it's like, that's just so frustrating. And
because I mean, this would easily be. I mean, maybe if it didn't have that beginning, maybe right there with the best, you know, animated movie of, you know, maybe just animated superhero movie ever.
Well, I mean, I'd still put it below Dark Knight Returns and below Under the Red Hood. Both of those I thought were brilliant, almost perfect. But yeah, I'd definitely put it right up there.
If it didn't have the 20-minute, and that's why it's so frustrating.
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, I guess, final thoughts on the whole thing.
I mean, pretty much everything we said. I mean, if it didn't have that opening, it's straight from the comic, which is great, and again, you're taking both the best elements, one of the best graphic novels, and the best part about the Batman lore, which, you know, is getting Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, you know, back to, you know, that's pretty much what people think of when they hear Batman's voice or when they hear the Joker's laugh. They think of, you know, Mark Hamill, you know, and Kevin Conroy. So it's great having the two come together finally, the way they should be.
Yeah, I totally agree. Even though there's the, you know, horrible beginning and all that stuff, it ultimately it doesn't ruin it for me, because it's too good. It's too good of a story. It's too good having Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill to completely ruin it. So I definitely think it is disappointing, but it's not ruined.
And also the fact that it's not like interspliced in the Killing Joke. The fact that it's only the beginning, where if you want to, you can just start it as soon as Batman gets to Arkham, or if Batman finds the bodies.
And that's what I'll be doing.
Exactly. So yeah. So thank God for that.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
So yeah, overall, I definitely enjoyed it. I definitely thought it was very well done.
Definitely see it if you love Batman. If you love the Killing Joke, definitely see it.
Yeah, just skip the beginning and then start it about 25 to 30 minutes in.
Yeah.
And then just watch from there, and then, you know, you'll be happy.
Oh yeah.
For sure. Anyway, that's the Killing Joke. Not quite sure what we were thinking about doing for next video. I was thinking maybe I know we talked about maybe top favorite movies, but I was thinking maybe do like top 5 Batman animated series episodes.
Oh, that'd be a good one.
Because that would be a lot of fun.
We could do that. Yeah.
So anyway, I think that's
something like that. Because I mean, like, nothing big comes out until Doctor Strange, if we want to do that.
Superhero-wise, yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, Star Wars. I'm sure we'll be doing some Star Wars on.
Yes, we'll be doing Star Wars.
Figured. So not till like November, December do we really have anything of note.
So I think just from now we'll just kind of go into some some older Batman stuff. 'Cause there's
Older
so
Batman.
much. There's so much Batman stuff.
Oh yeah, older Batman stuff, older movie stuff that kind of gives you an idea of what we love other than Batman, obviously,
Right,
and
right.
superheroes. We'll do stuff like that.
Yeah. So I think for next week we'll do our top 5 each favorite Batman animated series episodes.
And that's good homework to have to go back and watch animated series and find your favorite one.
Which I have been going through it recently too, so it's even.
I do it normally. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think it's by far the best animated show ever.
Yeah. If I ever have kids, they're not watching the Wiggles or stuff like that. They're watching Batman the animated series.
And Spider-Man the animated
Spider-Man.
series.
Yep. X-Men.
Justice League.
Oh god. Yeah. Oh yeah. Justice League. We could do like top 10.
Yeah. Oh yeah, all that stuff's great. The
Yeah.
animation from like the mid '90s to like early 2000s for
My childhood.
superheroes was great for
Yeah.
sure. So anyway, that's it for the Uncaped Crusaders review.
A little bit shorter. We're getting there. Shorter and shorter.
Yeah, we shortened it by like 20 minutes each time.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm Mark,
I'm Ian.
and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.